Hot and restless afternoon in a quiet corner of the city, the sun hung like burning metal in the sky, and the roads shimmered with waves of heat. Dust rose with every footstep and stuck to sweaty faces. Mara walked silently beside her friend Jasper, her old sandals scraping against the dry earth. Her eyes were sunken, and her clothes clung to her skin, the fabric faded from time and hardship. She had nothing left at home, not even rice. Today was her last hope of changing things. "Are you sure this place will give me a job?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Jasper glanced at her, confident. He wore a shirt a size too big, but he walked like he owned the road. "Don't worry," he said with a casual smile. "I know the manager there. Just follow me." Mara nodded. Her feet ached, her stomach grumbled, but she moved forward. She had no choice. If she didn't get this job today, she didn't know what she'd do next. As they turned down another dusty street, the air seemed to thicken. The noise of the city dulled, and the heat pressed harder against their skin. That's when they saw her, a frail old woman in front of them, wobbling as she walked. She carried a large bucket of water on her head. Her knees trembled with each step. Sweat poured down her face, and her lips moved silently, like she was praying for strength. Then she stopped. Her voice, hoarse and tired, reached out to them like a whisper through the heat. "Please, my children, help me carry this. My body is weak." Jasper tugged Mara's hand. "Let's go. We're late. If we miss the manager, we'll have to wait another week or never." Mara looked back at the woman. The old lady's legs shook beneath the weight of the bucket. Her shoulders drooped, and it looked like a breath too strong would knock her over. "She needs help," Mara said, her voice low. Jasper scowled. "Mama, why are you carrying something you can't handle? We're going somewhere important. You should have stayed at home." The woman didn't respond. Her hands trembled as she reached up to balance the bucket again. Mara turned to Jasper. "You always say we should fight for a better life, but does that mean ignoring people who are suffering right in front of us?" Jasper folded his arms. "This isn't our business. Let someone else help her. We've come too far for this." But Mara's heart was restless. Something deep inside her whispered that this moment was bigger than any job, bigger than even survival. She walked slowly toward the old woman. "Mama," she said gently, "where do you stay? I'll carry it for you." The woman blinked, surprised. "You will help me?" "Yes, Mama. Give me the bucket." Mara bent and lifted the heavy container onto her head. Jasper stood frozen, his mouth half open, watching in disbelief. He didn't understand what she was doing, but he also couldn't stop her. As the three of them turned toward a narrow path off the main road, the sky began to change. The blazing sun dipped behind a thick gray cloud. A breeze moved through the air, cool and slow. Something strange, almost magical, had just begun. They followed the quiet path until it curved into a forgotten part of the neighborhood. Birds chirped faintly, and flowers bloomed beside cracked walls. At the end stood a small house. It was old, its plaster chipped. Its door creaked, and the fence leaned like it had given up hope. But the compound was clean, the ground was swept, and a few potted plants stood proudly by the entrance. Mara stood still for a moment, surprised. Even in its age, the home had a strange beauty, like it had been loved deeply. "Is this your house, Mama?" she asked softly. "Yes, my daughter," the woman replied, pointing beside a small tree. "Drop the bucket there." Mara lowered the container carefully by the tree. Her arms ached, but her heart felt light. "I'll be going now, Mama," she said politely. But the old woman's voice stopped her. "Wait." Mara turned around. "Please," the woman said, "go to that corner over there. You will see a small native pot. Bring it to me." Mara hesitated. Her hands were shaking for some reason. She walked slowly to the corner, eyes scanning the ground, then bent and picked up a small clay pot covered with red cloth. She held it with both hands and returned. "Here, Mama." The old woman's eyes gleamed. She untied the red cloth and opened the pot gently. Mara leaned forward, curious. Then her breath caught. Inside, resting like sunlight, was a bar of pure gold. Mara stared, eyes wide. She had never seen real gold in her life. Not even once. The golden bar shimmered, catching light from the fading sun. It looked magical, surreal. The old woman smiled and took Mara's hands, placing the gold in her palm. It was heavier than Mara expected, but her hand didn't shake. "You are kind," the woman said. "People like you are few." Mara's mouth trembled. "Mama, I don't understand. This is for you, a gift for your good heart. But listen, do not sell it yet. Keep it for 7 days. Only after that can you exchange it. Use it to build your life." Mara dropped to her knees. "I didn't help you because I wanted anything," she said, tears in her voice. "I just couldn't walk away." "I know," the old woman replied, placing her hand gently on Mara's head. "And that's why this gift found you." Mara clutched the gold to her chest, still stunned. She stood slowly, bowed in gratitude, and walked out of the compound, her heart singing with joy, her soul lighter than it had ever been. She didn't know that behind her, in the shadows of the house, something ancient stirred. The gold had moved, and now everything would begin to change. Mara walked quickly, almost running. The gold was wrapped safely in her handbag, but she kept touching the bag just to feel it again. Her steps were light, her face glowing with a joy that lit up her tired features. People stared at her as she passed, some confused, others amused. But Mara didn't care. All she could think about was sharing the news with one person, Jasper. "I need to tell him," she whispered. "He won't believe this." She turned the corner to his street and spotted him standing outside his house on a phone call. Her heart raced with excitement. "Jasper!" she called, waving. But Jasper didn't wave back. He ended the call slowly and stared at her with an unreadable face. Cold, distant. Mara reached him, smiling. "Jasper, I have something to tell you, something amazing." But his voice cut like ice. "So you left me just like that, Mara? You really walked away from that opportunity?" Mara's smile faded. I helped her. She needed someone." Jasper's face twisted. "And what about your future? You keep saying you want a better life, yet you walk off to play hero?" "Please, just let me explain," she said, but he turned his face away. Mara reached into her bag. "Then just look at this." She pulled out the bar of gold. Its glow hit Jasper's face like lightning. He froze. "Where did you get this?" he asked sharply. Mara took a breath and began to explain. But as she spoke, Jasper's face grew darker. Behind his eyes, something was already shifting, and it wasn't wonder. It was greed. Mara's words poured out in excitement, how she had helped the old woman, how the skies changed, and how the gold appeared from a small pot covered in red cloth. But Jasper barely heard her. He was too busy staring at the gold. It was real, solid, bright, and heavy in Mara's hands. A piece of wealth so rare that even seeing it felt like a dream. "You're saying this old woman just gave you gold for helping her carry water?" he asked slowly. Mara nodded. "She said it was a gift for kindness. She told me to keep it safe for 7 days before I sell it. She said it will help me start a new life." Jasper's jaw clenched. His mind was spinning, but his face was still. "1 gold bar," he muttered. "She just handed you that? She said people like me are few." Jasper's lips curled into something that looked like a smile, but Mara couldn't read it. It wasn't joy. It wasn't surprise. It was hunger. "Well," he finally said, clearing his throat, "I guess you were lucky." Mara smiled, relieved. "I want to share some of it with you when I sell it. I really do." But Jasper's eyes stayed on the gold as she slid it back into her bag. His voice came out low and strange. 7 days, you said?" That night, Jasper didn't sleep. He lay on his old mattress, eyes wide open, hands clasped on his chest. He kept seeing the gold. Its glow haunted his mind. Its shape, its shine, the weight in Mara's hand, it pulsed through him like a fever. He stared at the ceiling, thoughts racing. How can someone like her just be given gold? He whispered. There has to be more where that came from. He sat up suddenly, the mattress creaking under his movement. His mouth was dry, but his heart beat loud. I need to find that old woman, he said aloud. If she gave Mara gold, maybe she has more. Jasper stood, dressed in silence, and stepped out into the cool air of early morning. The streets were quiet, just the sound of wind brushing against rusted zinc roofs. He returned to the dusty road where they had first seen the old woman. He waited. Hours passed. She never came. He came again the next day. Nothing. But on the third day, sweat soaked through his shirt, and hope was dying when he finally saw her. The old woman walked slowly along the path, carrying another bucket of water on her head, her steps steady but tired. Jasper's heart pounded. He rushed to her side, breathless but smiling. Mama, let me help you, he said, his voice sweet as honey. The old woman stopped. Her eyes met his, deep and unreadable. She said nothing, but slowly she nodded. The bucket was heavy, but Jasper carried it with forced ease. He followed the old woman back to her house, pretending to be humble, pretending to care. He watched everything: the path, the mango tree, the walls. His eyes studied every detail, searching for where the gold had come from. When they reached the yard, he gently dropped the bucket beside the small tree. Mama, he said, voice trembling with fake emotion. I want to say sorry for the way I spoke last time. The woman watched him, silent. Jasper lowered his head. My father is very sick. We don't have money for medicine. I didn't know where else to turn. The old woman tilted her head, her gaze sharp as a needle. My son, she asked softly, do I look like someone who has money? Jasper blinked. His lips parted, but no words came. He sniffed, wiped fake tears from his cheek, and nodded. I'm sorry, he whispered. For a long moment, the old woman simply looked at him, not at his face, but into him. Then she turned away and walked toward her door. Jasper remained kneeling in the yard, waiting, watching. Then she stopped. Jasper, she said quietly, go behind the house, under the mango tree. You will see a pot. Bring it to me. His heart leapt. This was it. Jasper ran behind the house, his footsteps quiet against the dry ground. The mango tree stood like a sentinel above him. Beneath it, just as she said, was a small pot, black and round, covered in old cloth. He looked around. No one. Hands trembling, he pulled the cloth away. His breath caught in his throat. Gold. Not one bar, not two, but several stacked like bricks of firelight gleaming in the shade. His hands shook as he reached out to touch them. The cold metal buzzed beneath his fingers. His mouth went dry. He lifted one, then another. I could take all of it, he whispered. She'd never know. His eyes darted across the yard again. But then something strange happened. He felt watched. The wind stopped moving. And guilt or fear crept into his chest. No, I can't take all. He replaced the bars slowly. But before covering the pot again, he quickly slid 3 gold bars under his shirt. I deserve more, he whispered. He covered the pot again and walked to the front of the house. The old woman was waiting. He dropped the pot at her feet and forced a weak smile. Thank you, Mama. The old woman stared at him, then at the pot. Did you touch anything in there? She asked calmly. Jasper laughed nervously and scratched his head. No, Mama. I only brought it like you said. She didn't respond immediately. She only watched him and nodded slowly. Okay, she said. You can go. Relief washed over Jasper like cool water. He turned to leave, clutching the stolen gold beneath his shirt, heart pounding. But a small voice in his mind whispered, She knows. She saw you. He shook his head. She's just an old woman. What can she do? Later that evening, Mara was at home unpacking food items she had bought. There was a knock at the door. She opened it and gasped. The old woman stood there, quiet as dusk. "Mama," Mara cried. "Are you okay? You came all this way?" The woman looked into her eyes. "Mara," she said gently, "did you take my gold?" Mara's heart froze. "What? No! Mama, I swear, I would never." But the woman said nothing. She turned and walked away, leaving Mara breathless, broken, and confused. That night, Mara lay awake. Her hands trembled. Her thoughts raced. And then it hit her. Jasper. The only other person who had seen the gold. And he hadn't called her since. Sleep did not come for Mara that night. She sat by her window, staring out into the quiet darkness, her arms wrapped tightly around herself. The old woman's question echoed in her mind over and over. "Did you take my gold?" Mara had done nothing wrong, but someone had, and only one name kept surfacing in her thoughts: Jasper. She remembered how strangely he had reacted. The way he looked at the gold, the tightness in his smile, the way he asked, "7 days?" like it was a countdown. He hadn't checked on her, hadn't called, hadn't even asked how she was doing. Could it be? "No," Mara whispered to herself. "He's my friend. He wouldn't." But a small, still voice deep inside her said, "Check." The next morning, Mara didn't waste time. She wrapped a scarf over her hair and walked straight to Jasper's compound. Her hands trembled as she knocked on his door. He opened it, yawning, looking confused. "Mara?" he asked. She didn't smile. "Did you take the old woman's gold?" Jasper's eyes widened. "What? Me?" His voice rose quickly. "Why would you say something like that?" "She came to my house," Mara said, trying to keep her voice steady. "Asking about it. You're the only other person who saw the gold." Jasper's face twisted. "Don't insult me, Mara. I don't even know her house." "Then why are you shouting?" she shot back. He turned away. "I'm done with this nonsense." But Mara's eyes followed him as he walked off. She knew. Somewhere deep in her heart, she knew. That evening, something strange swept through the street like wind from another world. Neighbors whispered about what they had seen. Jasper, barefoot, filthy, and laughing at nothing. His shirt was torn, his hair uncombed. He walked like a lost man, mumbling to himself. "Gold! The gold is talking to me!" he screamed, throwing sand into the air. Children ran from him. Shopkeepers stared. Some shook their heads. "Is that not Jasper?" one woman whispered. "What happened to him?" Mara heard the rumors too, but she didn't believe it, not until she saw it with her own eyes. She was heading to the market when she saw a figure approaching from the other end of the road. No shoes, torn clothes. Speaking to a stone, it was Jasper. "Jasper!" she called out in shock, dropping her bag. He turned toward her, eyes red, face sweaty and wild, but his lips curved into a grin. "The gold!" he shouted. "It's talking! I hid it under my shirt!" Mara's heart dropped. She grabbed his shirt. "Stop this! What gold? What did you do?" But Jasper only laughed louder. "I told the pot to keep quiet, but it shouted." People gathered. Whispers turned to murmurs. Mara's hands trembled as she held on to him. You stole it," she whispered. "Didn't you?" Jasper suddenly stopped moving. His eyes met hers. In them, a flicker of the old Jasper remained just for a second. Then he broke into laughter again. "I was going to build a golden house in the sky, with a door that talks." He spun in circles and threw his arms in the air, and Mara knew he had lost his mind. Jasper rolled on the dusty road, laughing and crying at the same time. The frogs are angry. They know I touched it." Mara tried to hold him up, but he kicked and shouted, "Don't let the pot see me!" "Please," she begged the watching crowd. "Someone help me. He needs help." A tall man wearing a cap finally stepped forward. He looked at Jasper, then at Mara. "What happened to him?" "He's my friend," Mara said. "Something is wrong. I need to take him somewhere. Someone who might help." The man nodded. "Okay, let's carry him." Jasper suddenly jumped up and tried to run. "The gold is mine! Mine and the frogs!" The man grabbed one arm, Mara grabbed the other. Together they dragged him through the dusty road, ignoring the whispers and stares. They reached the same quiet pathway, the one that led to the old house. The sky was turning golden with sunset, casting long shadows across the walls. There, sitting on a small wooden bench outside the cracked house, was the old woman. She looked the same, calm, silent, thoughtful, but this time she didn't look up. It was as if she had been expecting them all along. Jasper mumbled behind Mara, "The tree knows. It knows I touched it." Mara ran forward and fell on her knees. "Mama, please, help him! I'm begging you!" The woman lifted her head slowly. Her eyes met Mara's. Then she turned her gaze to the broken man behind her. The old woman rose to her feet, her cane pressing into the ground. She walked slowly toward Jasper, who was now sitting in the dirt, pulling out blades of grass and humming a tune that made no sense. "When the gold went missing," the old woman said quietly, "I asked him. I gave him a chance. I looked him in the eye." She stopped in front of him. "He said no. He lied." Mara clutched her hands. "Please, Mama. I know what he did was wrong. I know he lied. But I'm begging you, please forgive him. He's not well." The old woman looked at her with calm eyes. "What is wrong with him is not from me," she said. "It came from above." Mara's voice cracked. "But you can help him, can't you?" There was a silence so deep even the trees seemed to stop swaying. Jasper in the background was whispering nonsense, but it started to quiet. The old woman sighed and began to turn away. Mara jumped up and grabbed the edge of her wrapper. "Please," she cried, "do it for me." The old woman froze. Tears streamed down Mara's face. "He wronged you, but please, help him for my sake." Behind them, even Jasper stopped moving. The air changed. The old woman turned again and studied Mara's face, the desperation, the sincerity, the love. "If not for your good heart," the old woman said slowly, "I would let the spirits finish their work." She looked at Jasper. "But for you, I will try." The old woman moved toward Jasper. He looked up, sweat pouring down his face. She didn't speak. She raised her right hand and placed her palm firmly on his chest. Jasper trembled. She struck his chest once hard, then again. Jasper cried out. Then suddenly his eyes rolled back and he collapsed. Mara screamed, "Mama, what happened?" The old woman raised her hand into the air. Her voice was calm. "Now we wait." The bench creaked as she sat down again. The man who had helped them stood behind Mara, unsure what to do. Mara rushed to Jasper and knelt beside him. His body was still. His eyes were closed. She shook him softly. "Jasper, please, wake up, wake up." Then, slowly his hand twitched. His eyes opened. He blinked, looking around in confusion. "Where am I?" he asked, his voice weak. Mara choked on relief. "You're back," she whispered. "You're okay." Jasper saw the old woman and froze. You helped me?" he asked. She didn't speak. Mara answered for her. "Yes, Mama saved you." Jasper fell to his knees, trembling. "I didn't know what I was doing. Please, forgive me." But Mara's voice came out sharper now. "Where is the gold, Jasper? Tell the truth, now." He looked at the ground. I gave it to someone." "Who?" "I don't know his name," Jasper said. "But he told me the gold had changed. It turned to red pepper." Mara blinked in disbelief. "What?" But behind her, the old woman raised her hand slowly. "Wait," she said. "He's telling the..." Mara turned to the old woman, her face full of confusion. "Mama," he said, "the gold turned into red pepper. How is that possible?" The old woman nodded slowly, her hands folded in her lap. "Because the gold was never truly his." Mara frowned. "But it didn't belong to you either, did it?" The old woman gave a tired smile. "No, child, I was only the keeper. That gold belongs to a spirit, one far older and wiser than any of us. It is not ordinary. It finds the kind and tests the greedy." Jasper's hands began to shake. "So, what I saw, the pepper, it was real?" "Yes," the old woman said. "When something is taken by force, it loses its blessing. The spirit took it back and turned it into what it was never meant to be, bitterness." She reached into her wrapper and pulled out a small black bag. Opening it, she revealed a familiar glow, the same bar of gold. Mara stepped back in shock. It came back to you?" "I didn't call it," the woman said. "Yesterday I woke up and it was lying at my feet." Jasper's face dropped. His voice was barely a whisper. "I didn't know. I thought it was just gold." The woman looked at him sharply. "Not everything that shines belongs to you, and not all treasure is meant to be touched." Jasper fell to his knees, hands on his face. "Mama, I'm sorry. I swear I'll never do anything like that again." The old woman said nothing. Her silence said more than punishment ever could. The air around them was still, but it felt heavy, like the earth itself had paused to listen. Jasper remained on the ground, his shame a physical thing. He couldn't meet anyone's eyes. He kept repeating the same words. "I didn't know, I didn't know." But the old woman's voice rose again, firm and unwavering. "You didn't know because you didn't want to know. Greed makes you deaf to warning, blind to wisdom." Jasper nodded, swallowing hard. "I understand now." "Good," she said, "because what you went through, madness, shame, fear, that was mercy. You lived. Many don't." Mara stood silently nearby, watching the friend she once trusted crumble like sand. Her heart ached, but something inside her was also learning. This was bigger than them both. "Greed is a door," the old woman continued. "Once opened, it welcomes only destruction. If something is not yours, let it go. Be content. Be humble." Jasper nodded, tears welling in his eyes. "I will remember this for the rest of my life." "You must," she replied, "because life will test you again." Mara stepped forward then, her voice gentle. "Mama, what about the gold you gave me? Tomorrow makes it 7 days." The old woman turned her gaze to her softer now. "Then tomorrow, your reward begins." They all sat quietly for a while. Even Jasper, now calm, listened like a child hearing his first story. The old woman rested her hands on her knees. "Long ago," she said, "a spirit visited me in a dream. It told me to hold something pure, a gold that carried destiny. It was not to be sold, not to be flaunted, only to be given when the right soul came." Mara's eyes widened. "And you waited?" "I waited for years. Many came close. Some helped and walked away. Others tried to cheat me and got nothing. But none were right. Until you." Mara blinked. "Why me?" The woman looked into her eyes. "Because you didn't help me for reward. You helped because your heart knew it was right. That is the only way the gold reveals itself." Mara felt a lump rise in her throat. She had never been praised like that before, not by family, not by friends, not by the world. But here, in this cracked compound, with dust in the air and magic in the silence, she was seen. "Take the gold," the woman said. "Sell it. Use it well. Build your life not just for yourself, but for others who need your light." Mara nodded, tears in her eyes. "I will." Jasper lowered his head again, ashamed but grateful. He had been spared, but it had cost him everything. The next morning, the sun rose slowly, casting golden rays across the city. Mara stood in front of the old woman's house one last time. In her bag, the bar of gold gleamed silent but powerful. She and Jasper bowed in thanks. Whatever happens next, Mara said, I'll use it right, I promise. The old woman smiled. Good, but remember this is not the end, it's the beginning. Kindness will continue to open doors for you if you keep walking in it. Mara nodded deeply. Jasper stepped forward, still weak but clearer now. Mama, I'll never be the same again. Thank you for saving me even when I didn't deserve it. She nodded. Let your life prove your words. The two friends walked out of the compound, not the same way they came in. Mara walked toward a future written in gold. Jasper walked behind her, no longer blind to consequence. And above them, somewhere in the unseen, the spirit that guarded the gold watched and waited. And so it ended the way all true stories do, not with riches, but with wisdom. Mara used the gold to start a small business. She fed the hungry. She gave work to those who had none. And everywhere she went, doors opened not because of money, but because of kindness. Jasper remained by her side, not to take, but to serve. He told his story in markets and schools. I was rich for a moment, but broken by the next. Don't make the mistake I made. The gold had spoken. It spoke in madness. It spoke in mercy. It spoke in second chances. And its message was clear. What you steal will burn you. What you give will build you. And what you earn with a pure heart will last forever. Greed destroys. Kindness elevates. The eyes may see treasure, but only the heart can hold it. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this story, hit that like button and subscribe for more timeless tales. See you next time.